Never a dull moment in the SEC. Literally never a dull moment, especially on homecoming where you think that the kid from St. Louis is going to have to be the hero. And quite literally, he was. And that's what we got to talk about with Brady Cook pulling off the ultimate comeback kid mantra as the Tigers, the Missouri Tigers, get the 21-17 win over Auburn. Welcome on into the SEC Unfiltered postgame show. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson, breaking down everything that we saw at Farote Field as the number 18 Mizzou Tigers stay alive. MIZ is not dead yet. Real quickly, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the ring notification down below. That way you don't miss any live reaction, post-game show, Dave Talks Ball, Sunday Fun Day, Monday Morning Power Hour, regardless of what it is. Make sure that also you hit subscribe. It takes 2 seconds. Make sure that you download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson. And check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This postgame show is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks, the official sponsor of the SEC Unfiltered Tour. Make sure you go to prizepicks.com and use the promo code SECU at sign up to get a $50 instant play when you get your first $5 lineup. You bet overs, you bet unders. Who's walking away with more points, more yards, more field goals in the third Saturday in October, down in Austin tonight. Whatever lineup you want to set, do so. PrizePicks.com, promo code SECU. Dave, what a fun game. Like, honestly, as much as it had its rocky twists and turns, a lot of miscues from both sides. A lot of things that need to be cleaned up, especially for Missouri that now becomes bowl eligible underneath Eli Drinkwitz in year 5. Still has a shot at keeping their college football playoff hopes alive a little bit longer. A lot of cleanup, but you get a comeback story. You get the kid that dreamed of playing for the Tigers, the kid that grew up in outside of East St. Louis, want to come on in, be that dude. Mizzou found a way to win, and ultimately they found a way to win with the kid that ultimately bleeds everything about MIZ.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at multiple directions here. Missouri, got to give him credit for fighting, continuing just to stay in the game. Drew Pine wasn't awesome, but again, nobody's backup quarterback's really going to slide right in and take advantage and not really miss a beat. Especially Brady Cook had not played great really all year. But maybe that's the turning moment. They got a big opportunity next week. But no, I mean, you got to give Missouri credit, first of all. I mean, staying in that game, staying within striking distance. Brady Cook comes in, plays phenomenal. Auburn, again, as I say all the time, I feel like they left a lot of meat on the bone. A lot of meat on the bone from a standpoint of offensively, the play calling's not there. And also just execution. Either Peyton Thorne's throwing a low or high ball, the receivers dropping it, offensive line's not picking up the slide protection. I mean, Jarquez Hunter's kind of their go-to guy, but you feel like he disappears at times because of play calling. The defense, DJ Durkin then kept them in the football game, man. I give them credit. I know they gave up the score late, but he kept them in the football game for the most part, and that defense kept them in. I thought Missouri was going to score when Auburn, when they got the ball, they're at Missouri's 40. They're like second to last drive of the game and just did nothing. And it was just like, yeah, Missouri at some point's good enough on offense with Brady Cook getting settled in here to go score. So, yeah, it goes both ways. Missouri hanging in there. Maybe it's the win. It kind of gets them over. They have another big opportunity next week. Auburn just finding ways to lose. Continue to find ways to lose.
You know what Auburn feels like at this point? The most picky eater that has ever existed because of how much meat they leave on the bone. Like, they only like the gizzard of the actual animal, and everything else kind of just throw the wayside. They don't care. They don't want to eat it. They don't want to be a part of it because of how much you can say Auburn shot itself in the foot. Auburn had opportunities to score. They had opportunities to capitalize. They never decided to put their full foot down on the gas. And now they're sitting at 2-5. Now they're sitting 0-4 in conference play. Now they're sitting at 2-5. Now they feel like a team that has to win out just to be bowl eligible, let alone not even be in the conversation for a winning season. There's a lot. But let's start off with the winners, as we always do. Brady Cook gets hurt on the opening drive. You watch as they settle for 3 points. Drew Pine has to come on in. It felt like the momentum shifted. It did. And this is one of those games where you kind of sit back and say, a win is a win. It's a gutsy win. It's a solidified win. It's one that we're not going to complain about because we had to turn to our backup. But at the same time, it did feel like that the play calling was askew. Like, there was moments where I thought, let's go trust the run game. You know that Pine is not going to be a proficient passer. You know that you're going to be very limited when it comes to wide receivers getting open. And credit to Auburn, they did a great job of basically taking Luther Burden out of the game, which is always going to be a solidified weapon.
It wasn't Luther's best game. I mean, he had a drop, the fumbled punt. Yeah.
And we'll get there. But like Auburn did a great job of taking him out to force Brett Norfleet to have to step up, to force Theo Wease to have to step up, Mookie Cooper, Joshua Manning. All of them had to play a massive role. And for Drew Pine, there's a level of comfortability that you have when it comes to having someone such as Luther Burden versus having to go to everyone else and hope that they get to live up to that wide receiver one mentality.
For Mizzou, I'm with you. They abandoned the run game very often.
Very quickly, too.
For whatever reason, even against A&M, you saw the abandon it. I mean, once they got down 7-0, it's like you never saw the outside zone again. You still feel that way a little bit. I don't know why that is. I'm sure there is some reason. But no, I mean, defensively, give them credit. Man, Auburn only scored 10 offensive points. I mean, outside the punt return that we talked about, Luther Burden fumbling, I mean, that was a key. I mean, the defense quarter platoon, give them credit. I mean, I know Auburn's offense, though, they put up a bunch of yards on people. Yeah. And again, they usually make mistakes that hurt themselves. And that's what happened. I mean, like early in the game, settling for field goals. I mean, yeah, give Missouri credit, though. I think, Cole, you tell me if I'm wrong here, that's a game that could turn around. And again, we all admit it going into the Euro. Missouri's got a ton of winnable games left. I think every game they can
win. Every game I think is winnable.
Every game that for sure they could win every football game. But that may be a game that you kind of look back on. You're like, yeah, that's why Missouri finished potentially 10-2, even 9-3, playing well at the end of the stretch. Again, it may not. But it's just something to look back on potentially.
The thing that really bothers me when it comes to watching Mizzou is that they don't seem to ever feel confident in the play calling. I don't know what the reasoning is. You know, you average 2.4 yards per play on the ground, but you get 2 rushing touchdowns. Now, don't get me wrong. They were set up by big explosive plays, the 4th down conversion by Luther Burden, the big Mookie Cooper 78-yard catch down to the 2-yard line right before we got to the end of the third quarter. Yeah. But still, the fact is that you have 2 running backs. And yes, Nate Noel was dealing with an injury. He wasn't supposed to come back in. Eventually, kind of was like the prodigal son rising from the ashes and saying, nope, I'm going to be a part of this team. I want to come in and I want to give at least something of value. I get it. But this is still an organization and a program that last year really believed in the rushing attack with Cody Schrader. And this year, you've seen the rushing attack work. And you've seen the way that the complementary pieces, not just of Marcus Carroll and not just of Nate Noel, but also Jamal Roberts has been able to kind of give you that second wind. And it just feels like I don't know why they're trusting Brady Cook and really an injured Brady Cook and Drew Pine, who, keep in mind, really kind of said, I'm done with football, but then went to Mizzou, said, you know what, let's just go ahead and give it one last try. You know what you have at quarterback in him. Yeah. You know what you have in terms of what are his strengths and his weaknesses. There's no...
He kept you in the game.
There's no masquerading it, but your defense really kept you in the game. He kept you in field goal position, which, by the way, again, you have to go ahead and give a little bit of credit for what Craig was able to do. Big 59-yard kick to begin the game. However, you also got to give a little bit of credit that he missed 2 field goals to where you probably would have been able to say, you know, we don't even have to worry about Brady Cook being the guy. We don't have to worry about Brady Cook to deliver that big-time throw on 4th down. Because if we just make those kicks, then we're okay. We're still ahead of the curve. We're still ahead of schedule, and we're keeping the momentum, and we're capitalizing on points. On the flip side, Auburn did do that. Because if you do get the muff punt with Luther Burden, they find a way to get in the end zone with Cam Coleman. They then find a way to watch Malcolm Simmons, who I do believe is going to be a superstar for this Auburn team if he does stick around. He comes in, piles on, make sure that he gets the ball in the back of the end zone. Now they're up by 17. But it kind of felt like when they missed that field goal, and Towns McGee was not able to connect on what was, I think, a 38-yarder. Or I know it was a 31-yarder, I'm not mistaken. But still, when they were unable to capitalize on that play, it felt like, okay, now we have to. It really felt like now we have to turn back to Brady Cook. Now we have to go ahead and win. Because
30, Cole. 30.
What? 30-yard line? Okay, 30-yard kick. So when Magoo missed that kick, it felt like that maybe Eli Drinkwitz said, can you go? Cook, can you go? Because we ain't going to get this other shot.
Life. We have life.
If they would have missed that.
I lost your volume.
I said if they missed that kick, I truly believe they would have been out of this game. It would have been done.
If Auburn makes that kick?
Auburn makes that kick.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Auburn would have still had the momentum. It wasn't 6, but it was like, yeah, they were controlling the game. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you on that call. That was the big momentum change. Brady Cook comes in, and it was just Auburn melted away in the fourth quarter. I mean, it wasn't like Missouri dominated, but I mean, Auburn got what? A stop in the second. They got a big stop and won the field position battle. Gave the offense the ball back on Missouri's 40. And it's like, dude, if you can't score there, manufacture something. The offense, just, again, it's like Auburn this year. Again, I don't think it's as bad as their 2012 team, but there is a lot of just similarities of finding ways to just lose football games.
Without question. And I think the big question now is, what do you do if you are Auburn? What direction do you go?
Yeah.
What is your best course of action? Because of Peyton Thorne, he also had a turnover in this game. Remember, there was the fumble inside the red zone where, again, this is a team that is not as bad as advertised. This is a team that does not have as many faults as we want to make it out to be. This is a team that is masquerading as an organization that just does not know how to play football, but they clearly do. And you see the processes and the promises. Cam Coleman, big-time scorer. But now in the fourth quarter, why are you not taking more shots to him? The way that we talk about a guy such as Ryan Williams, or the way that we talk about a guy such as Luther Burden, hey, it is fourth down. We need a critical drive. We need that play. You should also be talking that way about Cam Coleman, and they're not. And they're not treating it that way, and ultimately it's coming back to hurt them.
Yeah. No, I mean, where do you go from here? They go at Kentucky next week. Again, I picked Auburn in this one, felt decent about it. I thought it was a good spot for them. I mean, I can see where Auburn fans are really front. This would be if I'm an Auburn fan and you're an objective person. Again, nothing's happening to Hugh Freeze next year. He's getting 25. But if I'm an Auburn fan, this is the first time I kind of have some, if I'm an objective guy with our recruiting class, yes, the wins and losses in his first year and a half have not been theirs. I don't think anyone can deny that. But, dude, I have some doubt in you now, man. At some point, it's like, dude, how do we lose the Oklahoma game where if you just run the football and we punt, pin them deep, they're not scoring on us? This game, it's only our second double-digit loss. When we're that's the second loss in Auburn football history when they've led by double digits in the fourth quarter. I think they're 105-2 now. They were one going into it. It's like that again. I'm with you, Cole. You watch them and you don't feel like you're watching a bad football team.
Because they're not a bad football team.
No, they're solid. I mean, you are what your record says you are at this point. I mean, I know some disagree with your schedule, but Auburn's is a totally different layer. It's not because their schedule's really not difficult compared to some other SEC teams. You're just finding ways to lose. I think that's something going on internally. Again, I think Auburn go get it fixed now in today's college football next year. But, yeah, I just – you keep losing games, coaching losing games, lack of execution on the same side of the football. The defense is good enough to have 2 more wins.
But we have to give credit also to, I think, Missouri's defense, because of what they did was they allowed Drew Pine, they allowed this, for my money, lackluster play calling for most of the second half, for most of the first half, and they allowed these wide receivers that weren't on the same page with their quarterback to be able to make those missed opportunities, and they stepped up. I mean, 10 points allowed is not a bad statement, especially against an Auburn team that does have explosive playmakers, especially against an Auburn team that does have an experienced running back, especially against an Auburn team that has a quarterback when he doesn't turn the ball over. It's a pretty overall decent fit for what Hugh Freeze wants to run. But then again, I have to say when. I have to put in the if, the because. And that's where you look at good teams and bad teams, and you look at teams and say, you know what, this isn't working out. Things have got changed. Yes, I do believe that Hugh Freeze is going to get to 2025. You have to, because of, here's the thing, recruiting is starting to win. And when recruiting is winning and you're doing that right, at least you have a sense of direction to where now it's about coaching. Now it comes down to accountability for you on the field. And it comes down to you not making mental mistakes in your play calling, in your adjustments, in your game planning, in your scripting, in the locker room, in the weight room, in the practice facilities, whenever you're running indo drills and you're setting up certain designs for when you're in red zone opportunities. That's coaching at this point. It's not talent, because we have seen what the talent looks like. Auburn and Mizzou, talent-wise, I think are not that far apart. I think that you lean a little bit more in favor of Mizzou, the way that they have veteranship at quarterback and you trust the quarterback a little bit more.
Yeah, there's more NFL guys on it.
And certainly at the offensive skill positions. Definitely, I would say when it comes to Marcus.
But again, we're not talking about Auburn being a 9-10 win team here and they're at 8. I mean, we're talking about an 0-4 SEC team, right? We're just talking about, dude, be 2-2 right now in league play.
And you could easily be 2-2 in league play. You should be 2-2 in league play. You really should be sitting at probably, I would say 4-3 overall if you don't have the interceptions against Cal, the interceptions against Arkansas, and the interceptions against Oklahoma. And if you don't have those turnovers, you're sitting at 2-2 in conference play. You showed that you were able to hold your own against Georgia and a very stable Mizzou defense headlined by Corey Batoon. You showed life. And I think that's where you have to look at it. But also at the same time, the moral wins don't count. Yeah. And they shouldn't count. Nor should they ever be considered a part of that conversation, because of when we give away participation trophies for, oh, you showed up for 4 quarters and you only had 1 fumble. Good for you. Then that's just not good. And more importantly, that's not what is supposed to be Auburn football. I have talked about this. Dave, you have talked about this. Everyone on the show has talked about this. When Auburn is good, it's good for college football. And Auburn is one of the toughest jobs in the industry because of where you are, how you have to recruit, how you have to develop talent, and what the expectations are by the boosters. But ultimately, this is just poor coaching. It is poor execution, and it is poor game planning, because the talent is there. I've seen the talent now, and I've seen it show up on multiple occasions. But in the going moments, you need to see the offense truly take that next step forward. And they got pedestrian, and they allowed Mizzou to hang around. You know what it reminded me of? A lot of, go back and look at that game against Ole Miss with Kentucky, where the defense did just enough for Ole Miss to keep them in, but their offense never had a game plan. And so it was just very pedestrian, and they never could capitalize. The team at the very end pulls away. They get the win. Now they're sitting in a very prominent light. And honestly, for Mizzou, they get to kind of control their own destiny for what they're going to be moving forward, especially now going to Tuscaloosa. We don't know what we're going to see from Alabama today. We don't know if Alabama is going to be now in must-win mode. But it's very clear there is a formula that can work for a Mizzou team the way it nearly worked for a South Carolina team, the way it worked for a Vanderbilt team, and they have the personnel to do it. The best can still be ahead for Mizzou. But for Auburn, I have no idea where you go.
No. Yeah. I mean, no, you basically said most of it. I mean, for the most part, this game, I mean, you got to give Missouri credit. I'm interested to see how that springboards them through the rest of their season. It may not do anything. They may be a little bit inconsistent like they have been. But this is the game you kind of can turn around and look back on and say, hey, that's where Missouri's season changed for the better. From an Auburn, I mean, Hugh Freeze 8-12 in the first year and a half. It's not going to cut it. At some point, they're probably going to stop playing for it. I mean, at some point, you lose momentum. There's nothing to play for. Everybody starts looking out for number one. So I think they got a must win next week. It's a must win at Kentucky.
And honestly, that's the problem. If it was at home, I'd feel a lot better, but it's on the road at Kentucky. I'm not sure how you feel about that. I really don't. Brady Cook gets the win. Mizzou gets the win. We don't accept moral victories. Auburn found a way to shoot itself in the foot, and a Tiger team won. Naturally, we all knew a Tiger team was going to win. But like, rate, review, subscribe, follow us on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow Dave at Mach 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. We got a live post-game show coming on up in just a few minutes. South Carolina, defensively, what are you doing? Awesome game. Oklahoma, no idea where else you go from this point. But for Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. MIZ. Peace.